All right. So anytime you install a new service, you need to restart that service for the Linux machine to be aware that, oh, you have given me the responsibility to, okay, it's not part of my job, I'll do it. And the command to restart a service is systemctl restart. Then what's the name of the service you want to restart? In this case, it is HTTPD. Could have been network or any other service, but this is HTTPD. All right, so if you press enter, it is done. So by this command, by the installation of this command and the restarting of that, by the installation of this service and the restart of that service, we now have this server as our web server. It's not a web server. So this other long thing we did was, let us put something on the web page. The web page of, so the default place that is reserved in this server for web pages. Anytime you have a web page, you must put it specifically in that space for it to show as web page, for it to be browsable. So the place is let me show you the place. What are we, by the way? Print working directory. We're an EC2 user. Let's go back to CD root. That's the meaning of that CD root, right? We're in root now. What are we? Print working directory. We're in root. So show me everything. ls minus LA. Look at the different directories, system directories that came with. We are not doing Linux actually. We're above the other class now, right? So there's this directory called boot, dev, etc, home, and so many directories for different purposes. All the powers of Linux, they are housed in these different directories. Okay? Binary for executable file, boot, dev, etc for configuration files, home for home directories, media, and so on and so forth. And then we'll be using some of this as we move on. But for this particular case, what we want is in var. Let's go into var. cd var ls minus la. So var also has many directories. Part of the many directories, one of them is www. All right. Of course, that already tells you that this has to do with World Wide Web. This must be the place that is related to website and World Wide Web and HTTP. So go in there. cd www. All right. So there are two directories, HTML and the other one, CGIB. Of course, it's logical that if you are creating HTML file, this is the place to check. So cd HTML. All right. So what's in there? There is a file called index, but it wasn't the original. But if you read the big books and you understand Linux, this is the default directory for index.html. Index.html is the home file of your website. You know, even if your website has 20 pages, the very first page that loads, and then from there you can call the other pages, is called the home page. So this is the place where home pages must be, otherwise they will not be browsing. And the name of the typical name of home page is index.html. It will come in other names like home.html, but this index is just typical. All right. In this case, we already have index. Let's modify. Do you know how to modify a file? Let's change this to something else. So remember, vi index. This. In fact, if you don't want to type, you can just copy. Just say this one, whatever the name is. Just highlight it and then right click it. All right. So this was what we had in there. Let's remove it now. Remember, I for insert, delete, and then let's put our new home page. What do we want? This is just a sample. If you can see, if it's a keyword, let's remove it. When you see this text, it means that your web page is active and your web server has been configured correctly. All right. So this is the content of your web page now. It's just for test. You are not a web developer. All right. You are done. Escape, write, quit, bank. Remember we learned this? All right. So you are done. So what have you done? This is what I have done. Instead of using this shortcut to do what this one did, I went the long way to actually do it directly, so that you'll not be wondering, how did we come about this? So we are done now. So we have created a web page inside this website. How do I convince you that this thing is working? The only way to convince you is to give you the IP address and browse it from your computer and see if you can see it. So you copy the IP address. Let's go there so that, because this is live on in cloud. This is not experimenting. This is the real. So you should be able to work for you as well. So for this server, right? So can you copy the IP address? Do you see this address? 18.191.249.106. Type it in your browser. Type in your browser like I'm going to type it. Okay. All right. Do you see it working?
Yes.
All right. So the idea that you can type the same IP address from there, you can see the same thing. It means that we are live. So the idea of where do we first of all try or test or improvise? No. This is the real thing, improvisation. All right. So the first time when we did this, it did not work because of something called security. So we went back to the server, and then let's look at the server. There's something called security group. in server. So we'll go to security and then we'll go to security group. We'll click the security group. All right. Now let's explore. Let's look at the security group. It has inbound rules and outbound rules. For security group, they are the same. We'll talk more about that when we get to VPC. Yes. When we get to VPC, we'll talk more about it. Now, if we come here and we say edit inbound rules, it is only the protocols or the ports that are open for this server that would be that communication can happen. Every other port that is not open, communication cannot happen. So initially, this port was not open. It was blocked. In fact, let's delete it, all right? So right now, it's only SSH that you can do through this port to this server. So if we save, I will now attempt to go and browse again. It will not work because the port through which we should connect to the server to be able to access that page is not open, it's blocked. The fact that I cannot see it means that it's blocked. So the port is locked. It's a security measure. That's why it's called security group. All right. So let me go back to that instance. This is the instance. Let me go to security group. It's a common exam question. All right. Security group. And then I see that the only kind of communication that can happen with this server is if I'm trying to SSH, like we'll be doing from here. We've been able to SSH successfully from here to the server. That's good because the SSH port was open. So the reason I'm not able to communicate through HTTP is because HTTP blocked ports. It's not open. So to open it, I edit the inbound route and I say add rule. Please allow HTTP. I come here among this protocol and I look for the HTTP protocol. Where's HTTP? And I say allow communication, allow ports, allow communication through this port to this server. From which particular system? From all systems, any system. 0.0.0.0 means all systems. We'll talk more about IP addressing later. All right. And then we'll now say add. So now that we have opened the port, we are now able to connect to that server through this port and be able to browse that. That's why we're saying this. Be clear now?
Thank you.
All right. All right. So 3 exam questions to come from here. Questions like I created a web server and I try to browse it. I mean, this will be, it may not be in this way. The words will be more technical, but basically say, I created a web server. I attempted to browse the web page that I placed in the server. I'm sure that I placed it in the right directory. So it's not a matter of you didn't place it in the correct directory. It was placed in the right directory. Yet I'm not able to browse it. In your troubleshooting, what are the possible places you would check? You can tell me. What are the errors you would try to correct? Have that issue.
Check the security group.
Security group. What would you be looking out for?
The inbound row.
Yes.
The
What exactly?
inbound row.
Yeah.
HTTP.
Yes. It's edible. It's HTTP. There are many protocols, so you have to say HTTP. Oh, good. All right, so let's learn something new. All of that was revision. Any other question before we learn something new? All right, so we have done this. Copy and paste the public IP address in your browser, and then look at this yellow mark. Remember to allow HTTP. That's the question you just answered in your security group.